We're focusing on your wedges, and you've told us that your main issue is the trajectory of your shots. And more specifically, you tend to hit the ball too high and you'd like to bring that ball flight down a little. Now, the ultimate height of the ball flight is largely determined by the launch angle of the golf ball, and that is controlled by the loft of the club at impact. Every club has what we call static loft, which is the loft that it's designed with. However, we also have something that's called dynamic loft, and that's the loft that we present at impact, and these two can be very different. So for example, from setup, if I was to push my hands backwards away from the target, you'd see we would add loft to the club face. If I was to move my hands towards the target, you can see that we would remove loft from the club face. So the further back the hands are, the higher the launch angle, and the further forward the hands are, the lower the launch angle. So quite simply, in your golf swing, if we want to lower your shots, we need to move your hands forward of where they currently are at impact so that we de-loft the club face and lower the launch angle. Now first, if we look at setup, this problem can be quite simple, which is if the ball position is too far forward, it's very difficult to get the hands far enough forward to lower the launch. So the club head is going to be coming into impact with too much loft. On the other hand, if I was to move the ball much further back in the stance, you can instantly see how easy it is to have the hands forward and the club face de-lofted. So as a general rule for your wedge shots, we'd like the ball either in the centre of the stance or slightly back of centre. Now secondly would be where we position ourselves in relation to the golf ball. Even with the ball in the right position, if we were to lean our body away from the target, it would have the same effect as moving the ball forward in the stance. We simply can't get the hands ahead of the ball. On the other hand, from our good setup position, if we were to lean ourselves towards the target, we can get our upper body much more on top of the ball, or maybe even slightly ahead of it, and again you can see how easy it is to now get the hands forward of the ball. Once we've got a good setup, it's then down to the swing dynamics that will determine whether we hit the right shot. So looking at the release, as you take the club from setup to the top of the swing, you will add wrist hinge. So when you swing back down again, you have to unhinge the wrists. And it's when we unhinge the wrists that will determine the loft of the club at impact. So the earlier you unhinge the wrists, the more loft you will have, and the later you unhinge the wrists, the less loft you have. Because by delaying the release of the wrists, it allows us time to get the hands forward of the ball. So it's going to be by delaying your release that we're going to get less loft at impact and lower the ball flight. So the first thing to do is take a setup for a practice swing, make your backswing, and then without moving the body, use your hands to get the club head to the ball. And what you'll notice is that this is going to bring the club into impact with a lot of loft. To not use the hands excessively during the downswing, we have to make sure that we use the body well. And that means we're going to be shifting towards the target, and we're also going to be rotating. And that movement is going to help us to get the hands ahead of the ball before the club arrives at impact. So part of delaying the release is having good body action. So the key feeling here is from the top of the swing, you're going to mainly feel that you're driving the swing with the body and that the release is going to come quite late. So we have the downswing starting with the body, we have a late release of the club, and then we swing through to a full finish where we've turned towards the target and we've shifted fully onto our front foot. Now when you're making these practice moves, one of the things you're looking for is the fact that the club head is going to contact the ground ahead of the ball. Something that you'd expect to see with an early release is the club either not brushing the grass at all, or maybe even contacting the ground behind the ball. Whereas if you delay the release and you get your hands forward, you're more likely to get the club to hit the ground after the ball, which is where we want our divot. So if we take this to a golf ball for a shot, let's get our good setup. The ball position is either middle or slightly back of centre. We're leaning forward onto our front foot. We're then making an appropriate backswing for the distance that we have. And from here, the feeling is that it's the body shifting and turning that starts the downswing. We have a late release that gets the club to brush the grass after the ball, and then we swing through towards the target to the finish. If we can do that with the golf ball, we should hit a nice low flighted shot.